Oh, this could be an opening. The man they want to have the opening. It's Lauren Sheffield. That is the moment. The moment of matters.
Welcome everyone to Hearts on Seas podcast, a podcast all about Heart of Midlothian Football Club, its fans and the ups and downs we experience both on and off the pitch. So last week we had a throwback to 2005, 2006, and this week has been a less welcome throwback to 2020 as I've given myself a dose of the coronavirus. However, this is an episode we have had on lockdown for some time, and don't worry, all participants are appropriately socially distanced in any case. We do have a full complement, or about to have a full complement. One of them hasn't quite joined us yet. First of all, I'll start with you, Adam. How have things been since we last spoke?
It's been good, yeah. I've been missing Hearts, to be honest, since I missed the last couple of away games, so can't wait till Saturday.
John, your brother, will be joining us later, but he's at work right now. However, he will come in a wee bit. Trunter is with us now, though. And so I mentioned that throwback to 2005, 2006. And Trunter's been busy putting together his combined 11 of that in this current season's team. How are you feeling about it all without giving too much away?
I like it. I like it a lot. I don't know if everyone will agree with me, but I'm pretty happy with it.
Well, this week we are also delighted to be joined by Davy Wilson. Now, Davy has been a jambo since the 1950s and has therefore witnessed many ups and downs that the Gorgie roller coaster has provided during that time. When we began this podcast and put out an open invitation for jambos to come on and talk about their journey with their mental health, Davy kindly reached out to us, and we'll come on to that shortly. But before we do, let's say hello to him. Hi, Davy. How was your holiday?
Brilliant. Too long ago, even if it was only a couple of weeks ago, but it was good, really good. Very hot. Florida's very hot at this time of year, so it was good.
Mainly golfing then across there, was it?
Yeah, 7 games of golf in 14 days. It was a bit tiring. Highlight, though, was not golf. It was actually going to an NFL pre-season game with the Miami Dolphins.
Fantastic. Who were they playing?
Jacksonville Jaguars, and it was inside Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. 70,000 people there. It was brilliant.
I mean, I can't imagine it compares to Tynecastle.
No, it
Decent
doesn't.
stadium other than that, yeah.
I'll tell you what, there's long periods of silence in comparison with Tynecastle.
And no booing when the ball went backwards as well, probably. But,
No. It's not part of the game in the NFL, I don't think.
The other thing we was going to mention to you, Davey, last time we met up, we were at the Tony Bloom event. How did you feel after that event, and how are you feeling now about all things Hearts?
I think that the Tony Bloom thing was just absolutely fantastic. And I mean it from a point of view that he was so relaxed about what he was saying. It was almost like everything he said was said with a complete belief in what he was saying. So I came out there feeling positive about it. And what's made it even better is every time you hear Derek McInnes talking, he just sounds like the guy we should have had years ago. Really, he comes across as being fantastic. Even his "ourselves" sounds good as well. You know, it's still he just seems to be one of the most positive managers we've had in a long time. But speaking with authority, and all the talk of how's he going to deal with Jamestown Analytics and that seems to have disappeared completely from anybody's conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And that just is a testimony to how he's adapted and what Bloom has said in the past.
Adam, do you want to come in there?
The McInnes and the Bloom events were both just absolutely brilliant. I couldn't agree more with Davey about the way McInnes speaks as well. Just I think there's a real togetherness and positivity about the club that hasn't been there for a long time, and yeah, I think this was the perfect timing for Derek McInnes to come in as well. So I think McInnes and Bloom, is going to hopefully take us a long way.
Yeah.
And you made such a good point there, David. I remember sort of all this hoo-ha before McInnes was brought on was about how he'd get on with the analytics, how we'd get on with the Tony Bloom model. But it's just been ever since then. It's just ever since he came in, really. There's been no issues whatsoever. He's just managed to make it work with the ones we've got, and kind of also, I suppose there's been a few players that we signed before he came in
Yeah.
that just clearly haven't fit in. But I mean, that would have been the same with or without the model, right? You know.
I listened to his Scottish football podcast tonight, and he was on with Michael Stewart, Alan Hutton, and Darryl Curry, and he was on for about 20 minutes. Not once did they talk about Jamestown Analytics, how he's dealing with it, and all the rest of it. It was all about the players, and he was making the point that some of the players that they've signed aren't ready for Scottish football yet. So they are building them up to get them ready for Scottish football. They mentioned somebody like Carjota, for instance, and that's you've got to look at that side of it. He's looking at the side saying, we've got players here who we're going to develop, and it's good players. Plus the fact that we've got other players that are hitting the ground running. So it was very positive.
And it's also really reassuring because, you know, me and Trunter, we kind of had conversations, a podcast about a couple of players that just, you know, you kind of wondered how they fit in. I think I mentioned Kurjota, you mentioned Magnuson, so it's quite reassuring to hear that. How are you feeling about everything kind of since we last spoke on here, Trunter?
Still positive, man. And Magnuson looked a lot better against Rangers. He came on in the second half.
Yeah.
So there maybe is something there. I was probably too harsh, but like I say, it was just that bizarre moment at half time when it looked like he couldn't pass a ball. Really weird, but I think he was maybe just rolling it back to Wilson or whatever. But yeah, I'm still super positive, and I was working during the Rangers game and just kind of falling on my phone and just going completely mental. I was absolutely gutted that because did you not end up having a spare ticket?
No, I didn't.
No.
No, he
Sorry,
didn't.
can I come in there? That was just a joke by Jamie because
Oh my
Oh,
god!
that's right.
Davey, just to fill you in, Jamie was going to the Rangers match alone. So I tried to get a ticket as well, but I was a few points short with loyalty points.
Right.
And then Jamie was on the train and was like absolutely like terrified suddenly that Hearts were going to lose. So as a joke, he put in the WhatsApp chat that he had a spare ticket, which was actually his own ticket. But Trunter obviously didn't pick up on the humour. So Trunter's still being like, "Oh God, I could have taken that spare ticket." But no,
that's actually a massive weight off my mind.
I'll admit when I first saw the message flash up that Jamie had a spare ticket, I was like, "Oh shit!" But I think it was about an hour before the match started. So, but no,
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident it was a joke.
Just another thing about that thing tonight that was on the podcast thing, that he was incredibly, this McInnes was incredibly positive about Chesnikov. He said he is the answer to our right side. He said he will give us everything we want on the right side, basically. So he was very, very positive about that.
That's really exciting. Did he give any sort of time? I suppose it'll be January that
Well,
you're
he
expecting.
said that he actually said, like Stuart asked him if there's any roadblocks of getting him on board, and he said he's actually signed, so there's no roadblocks.
Right.
He'll get a month off, and he'll start training with us in December, and basically that'll
Fantastic.
be him ready to play for us in January. So he was incredibly positive about him.
I like how McInnes has been like that with a couple of players. You know,
Yes.
like when he says he's incredibly positive, I just take his word for it. You know,
Yeah.
whereas like, I feel like in the past sometimes players have been bigged up a lot and have been rubbish. I feel like McInnes would only say that if he's like absolutely confident. So
Well, his words about as you were
yeah,
incredible. He said that's the most exciting he's ever been since he signed James Madison for
amazing.
Aberdeen.
That's exactly how I was thinking of when I was talking about positives. I feel like
Yeah.
he hasn't said that about everyone, and if he is saying
No.
that, you know, you've got to think it's going to be brilliant. So yeah, really looking forward to that one.
And it's also just, I mean, really reassuring that we already sort of I mean, I guess it's kind of more of a timing thing, but knowing that we'll be strengthening the squad come January.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of my concern is that yes, we're doing well at the moment, but being able to sort of first of all, maintain that, and second of all, just build on it as well. So
Yeah,
it's just, it's really reassuring to hear he's so excited about
yeah.
Chesnikov.
He did touch on that as well. He said that he was talking back to his Aberdeen days when they were, I think, when they were challenging for the title when they split the old firm, and he said in that January he lost Danny Ward, and on the last day of the transfer he lost Adam Rooney, their top scorer. And he said that's the one thing he's wanting to guard against, coming out of the January window weaker than they went into it. So, Chesnikov coming in is a positive on that side.
I suppose that if we're going to have any concerns about the Bloom model, is just that every
Yeah,
player's has got a price tag. Basically, there's no
yeah,
one there that's not up for sale really when the right price comes in. But I suppose we should be reassured that we're continually looking for the next one to come in. The only sort of slight worry is that sometimes players will take a bit of time to, not all players can hit the ground running. So some players will take a bit of time to get used to the Scottish game, as he's mentioned. So hopefully we'll
yeah.
just continue to bring in players and then gradually grow them into the squad. David, going back a wee bit then, what is your sort of early memories of Hearts, and is there any particular games that stick in your mind?
Yeah, there are a few, but one or two of them I don't want to remember too well. Being at the derby, the bad one, the really bad one, being at that one was horrible. Um, and if anybody, I'm sure you all know what one I'm talking about. I don't want to go
Yeah.
into saying what it was, but that was
Yeah.
terrible. But I think one of the biggest memory, or one of the worst memories of my early part of Sporting Hearts was going to I think it was the 67 Cup final or 68 Cup final when we got beat from Dunfermline 1-0. That was horrific because that was really, we were such a good side at that time, and we lost 1-0 to Dunfermline, who were a good side, but they weren't as good as Hearts at that time. And
Mhm.
that was a real disappointment. That always sticks in my mind as being one of the times where I was in tears at that game. And obviously, I mentioned the Kilmarnock game earlier on, which was I wasn't at the game, but I remember listening to it on the radio and then watching the highlights at night and just think, how did we lose that? Just
Mhm.
Davey,
so yeah,
can I just ask?
uh,
Do you have
yeah.
any memories at all of like the honors that we won in the 50s and 60s? Because I know we won, like that was the most successful period in our history. Were you
No,
like a
no.
little bit too young for all of that?
I was just too young. I was
Yeah.
only about 3 or 4 year old at that time. So yeah, my uncle would have been talking, or my granddad should have, would have been talking about it, but I didn't have any real memories. The strange thing for me is that I grew up in Leith. I didn't grow up in any part of Edinburgh near Gorgie. I grew up in Leith, not that far from Easter Road, just in really our main street, Leith Walk, opposite Dalmeny Street. It's the earliest part of my life. My dad wasn't really a big football fan, although he did go to games. He was probably more of a Hibs fan than he was a Hearts fan. But I didn't go to many games at all until my uncle took me to that first game. I said my granddad. I keep saying my uncle. That's what we called him at the time. But it was my granddad. So,
What about happier memories then? What are some of your favourite memories of the Hearts teams of past?
well, the thing about this, Jamie, is that when we got to the 70s, Hearts were dreadful. I mean, they really were awful side to watch. I mean, we idolised Drew Busby at the time, and I mean, if you're idolising Drew Busby, he gave everything for Hearts, but there were some dreadful sides at that time. They really were. So as I got older, Hearts, although I was a Hearts fan and followed Hearts, I didn't get to many games for reasons. I was playing football on a Saturday myself, so I wasn't getting to games. And then I got married, had kids, and they were playing football. So there was a time where I moved away as well for a period of time. So I wasn't really at that many games. But I started getting back to it when my kids got a lot older. So I've been a Hearts fan all my life, but remembering good times. Remember going to the season, the 85, 86 season, obviously for reasons
Mm.
that I was going to that with my two boys who were 6 and 4 year old. And my wife, she started to come along. She thought, well, I better go along with you. If I can't beat them, I'll join them. So we went to the family enclosure in the main stand, went to every home game, and then went to Dundee on the horrible day. But it was a fantastic season. I mean, it was the players that we had then, Cahoon and Robertson and this guy, Gary Mackay, all that kind of stuff were just fantastic players. And I loved going to the games at that time. That was really big for me. It was a great season. We had a great time with the kids. They loved every minute of it, obviously, until it came to Dundee. But, and I've got a story about Dundee as well that I could tell you if you're interested. We
Go right
got,
ahead.
we
Yeah.
got tickets for the main stand because obviously I wanted the wee boys to be not in the main crowd because it would have been mental in there, but they were too young. So me, my wife, and the two boys went to the main stand. We ended up sitting directly behind all the sports supporters, including Alec Cameron. And of course, they were telling us the score from Paisley on the way during the game. So we knew what the score was as the game was going on. And if you remember that game, we were playing in the grey strips. If you remember, Brian Whittaker played the first half, but the whole squad was suffering from a flu virus.
Mm-hmm.
And within the first 5 minutes, Brian Whittaker's top was completely saturated because he got taken off at half time because he was in such a bad way. But that's part of the story. But obviously, we lost the 2 goals. We lost the first goal, and I said to my wife, I said, "Look, we better get out of here because could be bothered with for the boys and that." So we got ourselves out just after the second goal. We started to get down the stairs, going out the ground. We got halfway down the road, Tanneray Street, and my wife said, "I've left my coat under the seat." So I had to go all the way back into the ground, back up the stairs into the stand to get her coat. And of course, when I got back out again, the game was virtually over. I think it was finished by that time. And there's Hearts fans sitting greeting in the street and all this stuff. It was a really horrible weekend. And if you remember as well, that weekend, it was part of the Chernobyl disaster. And there was talk of the cloud of radioactive stuff coming over from Chernobyl. And we had decided to spend the whole weekend in a campsite in St Andrews before the game. There were a caravan. So it was a really weird weekend. And we had committed to going back we had actually said we'd go back to see the team in the Caledonian Hotel after the game. And we actually drove back to Edinburgh to see the team in the Caledonian Hotel. And they all came out and the fans in the street and they were apologising and stuff like that. And John Cahoon gave my wife a cuddle, which made her day. But that was, just it was a mental story. So anyway, a bad memory, but a good memory because it's stuck in my mind a long time.
I don't know if you've seen, That Was the Team That Was documentary, which was Hearts in 1986 season.
Yeah.
And I've watched it a couple of times. I don't know why. Even though it's obviously not it's obviously not a kind of happy story, but I almost feel like, even though I wasn't born when that happened, you almost feel like that type of season kind of brings everyone together. And
it was magic.
when you do actually win something, I always think, like, I'm always telling John, so all the times we've gone to Hampden in the last few years, lost to Rangers and Celtic, I always say to John, like, you have to go to every one, because then when you actually finally win it, it matters more. And I kind of feel like 1986 was like the ultimate example of, like,
Funny
and I'm
you
sure
should
you
say that, Adam,
Yeah.
because I have never ever seen Hearts winning at Hampden ever.
Wow.
I went in '67. I went into other cup finals that we were in, and League Cup finals, semi-finals. Never seen them winning ever. Seen it when Henry Smith dropped the ball for Celtic, everything like that, and even went to the final the week after we lost the final, the league on that last day. I went to that final and we still didn't win that. So I got to the point where I couldn't go anymore because I couldn't take the boys to give them any more disappointments. So, and I spent the '98 final the last 10 minutes sitting at the top of the garden because I couldn't watch it.
Well, you can come. Make sure you go to the final next May when we win the cup. Well, I think we might lose if you go, actually. But
As long as I won the league beforehand, that'd be good.
yeah, that'll make up for 86.
Yeah. I can't feel like I'm a bit of a jinx to Hearts if I go to go to Hampden. That's how I feel about it now.
I mean, I was going to kind of say, well, it got better in the 90s, which it certainly did, but unfortunately weren't there for the cup final. But what's your
Yeah.
memories of that game then, other than standing at the top of the garden?
Well, as I say, I sat and watched it in the house with the kids and my, heart strips on and scarves around their necks and all this kind of stuff. And when the game, I think did we go 2-0 up? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then they got McCoy scored, didn't they? And then did they get a penalty or were going to get a penalty?
It was
They,
right on the edge of the box.
yeah,
So
Yeah, they did.
everyone
didn't they?
thought
Yeah,
they'd had a penalty given, but it turned out it wasn't. It was on the line.
that's
So it was
right.
a free kick.
So and as I say, I think McCoy scored with about 15 minutes to go or something like that. I can't remember. Could he
thereabouts,
score?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I remember at that point I thought, I can't watch this. I just can't. And I thought to myself, I've just got to go out. And I left the rest of the family sitting in the living room, but I was sitting at the top of the garden on a bench and just waiting for the final whistle. I just couldn't watch it. And then we went into see the bus coming back um, into Gorgie. And then the following day, I chose not to see the thing in Princess Street. I chose to go to the stadium, more for the boys because we're still pretty young at that time. So I didn't want to be in a massive 200,000 people sort of thing, So that was what I did.
I was
It
at
was
the
good.
stadium that day as well. Yeah, we went
Yeah, it
with
was
my
a fantastic atmosphere,
me, my
wasn't it? It was
dad, and my
brilliant.
sister. Yeah, it was really great.
So yeah, I mean, as I say, I've lived through a lot of bad Hearts sides. But that 85, 86 side and round about that era when we were going every week, they were just fantastic to watch.
I mean,
So
when we finally win the league come the end of the season, I really feel you'll have earned that, to be honest. So
yeah, I think I've got a badge of honour for that. Yeah,
you'll enjoy it all the more, I think.
absolutely, absolutely. You know what I'll enjoy more? Honestly, I'll enjoy no matter whether we win this season or not. I'll enjoy proving all these people, the skeptics about Jamestown and all the rest of it. I just want that to work, and I want to
Mhm.
prove them wrong. To say, get it up, you. Sorry, that's the way I feel about it.
Oh no, I mean,
100%.
join the club, basically.
Yeah, I've got so many folk that I'm friendly with, and guys that I play golf with, my best mates that I play golf and snooker with, and they're all going, "Aye, we'll wait and see. It'll all blow up. It'll no work." You just think to yourself, "Shut up! Just pay attention to what." I mean, I was showing them who was it posted on the site, the team that USG put out last week. Well, all the players that were free transfers, 400,000, and I said that's what Hearts are coming to, and they've just beaten PSV. We want to be able to say that to people. We can beat these teams. So
Mhm.
sorry, you can tell me I'm a bit enthusiastic about it.
Well, I apologise. I think that's I think we're all feeling the same way, and I think people are skeptical partly because they're a bit scared of what's going to happen with Hearts, to be honest. So they're just winding
Yeah,
everyone
well,
up.
I come from a technical background, an IT background, so data analysis is something that I understand and I get. And I understand it doesn't always work in these things, but we've got the world leaders in this. We haven't got somebody that's just a guy now sitting in a back room make statistics up. These are the world leaders we've got.
Coming back to one of the reasons you asked to come
Yes.
on this podcast, Davy, was you want to talk about your journeys through, I
Yeah.
say journeys plural, with grief. Now you've had sort of two of these. I'm
Yes.
wondering if you're able to talk first of all about that first journey and talk us a bit through it.
Yeah. Well, the older boy that I talked about, Brian, um, he was he was a mad Hearts fan. He was like my first, and he got all the you're going to be a Hearts fan kind of thing. And he was a Hearts fan, and he was absolutely daft in football. And one of the highlights, not long before he got killed in the road accident, he got taken to Tynecastle for a day trip with school. Took my camera, I managed to leave it in Tynecastle, and I never got it back again. But he got killed in a road accident, and that was a tough time for us. Um, and even at that point, Hearts were involved in that as well because I mentioned Brian Whittaker. One of the reasons I did mention Brian Whittaker earlier on was that when Brian's funeral was happening, we had asked if Hearts would send a representative, and they sent Brian Whittaker, and he was a lovely guy. But I can't remember much about meeting him, obviously, because it wasn't the best time for me for thinking about that kind of stuff. But it was really tough. And although I wasn't going to Hearts games at that time because of it, as I said to you, because of the kids and what they were doing, Hearts were very important to me. And I'm an avid sort of reader of any article that's going on Hearts. I mean, Hearts Standard and all that now is fantastic because I just read everything, and obviously podcasts and stuff like that. But it was a tough time, and I remember, sitting with my wife and afterwards, and just my second son, he was 13 at the time. Brian was 15 when he got killed, so that would be 93. And the second boy was he was 13, and the younger one was only 4. And I remember sitting having a conversation saying, look, it's like a link in the chain of the family's been broken. What we have to do is close the links round again and make sure we keep that link inside us in the middle, so we don't forget them. And largely speaking, particularly with the one that was 13, Colin, he's still very close to thinking about his brother and that, and still goes to they get the cemetery every time it's an anniversary or something. The younger one was only 4, but only recently, well, not recently, maybe about in the last 4 or 5 years, found out that he had some real tough times because he blamed himself for his brother's death because he got killed on his way to the road accident on his way to a paper round. And what we didn't know is that he had been up during the night because the younger one, Kevin, had been crying. So he had got up to see him, and we hadn't heard him crying. So he thinks because he slept in and he had to rush to his paper round, it was because he had caused him to sleep in. So that was a tough time as well when you find that out. That was a long time afterwards. So.
And I think that's kind of highlights just how much grief is an ongoing journey. It's not a short-term thing. It's something you carry and discover new complexities to it as you go along. How did you cope during those early days in?
Well, I don't know how many of you have got children or family, but you've got 2 kids who, one a very vulnerable time at school, 13-year-old, and the other one who's essentially a baby just starting out in life. If I crumble and my wife had crumbled, these kids would have been left with no sort of a less positive future than they might have had. That's the way we looked at it, how to make it as good for them as we could do. And I think one of the things that we noticed, certainly I noticed, that I'm my job has been involved in mentoring people, looking after people in their career development and so on. So you get to understand people's behaviours and how they actually are developing. And I've looked back in it, and I think for possibly about a year, maybe 2 years, the 2 boys didn't get the emotional development that they probably should have got because we weren't able to give them that at that point because we were still dealing with our own grief. And the 2 boys, when you saw them with their friends, particularly the older boy, the 13-year-old, when you saw them with their friends, he was almost like he had stayed at 13 while they were at 15. You understand what I mean by that? That
Yeah,
they were
absolutely.
as 15-year-olds and he was still a 13-year-old. Now, that's not affected him as his life's gone on. He's a great lad, and he's been a fantastic son during the time, as they both have. They've both been brilliant boys. They've grown up to be got responsible, respectable jobs. The younger one's got 2 lovely boys now. So they've grown into proper human beings that I'm very proud of. So and my wife would be as well. So it's as I say, I can't say that we did everything right because I probably didn't, but we did enough to get them to where they are now.
I think something you've said that's sort of stuck with me, obviously talking about your younger son. My dad, well, me and Adam's dad died when I was 15,
Yeah,
and I think I can sort of see from the other perspective where you're saying maybe you didn't realise just what was almost going through his head.
yeah,
I think it's all just survival, isn't it? You try and
yeah,
protect the people around you. Like I just thought about my mum for the first wee while. That's all I was thinking about. I didn't really think about
Yeah.
myself. Kind of just kept it all in. But I think, yeah, like you're saying, you were trying your best. He's probably trying his best to, be there for you as well. Even
Yeah.
he's young, you pick up a lot at that age.
Yeah. And as I say, we're not able to give them the emotional development because we're almost stuck ourselves. So I think that did have an impact. Don't get me wrong, the boys are both fine now, and they've dealt with it, and maybe they're still dealing with it in certain ways as well. But they're adults now. Colin's 45 and Kevin's 36, so they're men now. So they've got their own lives to lead.
It definitely does build you as well. Like for
Yeah.
myself, like I've got a different outlook on life now. Like I always say to like friends and family, I kind of just take every day as it comes now. There's no sort of trying to plan ahead. You've just got to try and enjoy everything. And also, I
I
just feel
think
like, sorry, you go.
I think from a work perspective, it changed me completely.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that stuck in my mind at the time was, during the time they were growing up, the boys had, had a fairly decent job, and I was a lot of pressure on you to work all long hours and so on. And I worked them, but I didn't work them at the detriment to the kids. If the kids needed to do something, I was there for them. And I remember the senior manager in the place I worked coming to me at the funeral, and he said to me, I always remember his words. He said, "Davy," he said, "at least you've been there for your kids when they've needed you." He says, "I haven't been," because he was obviously ambitious enough to get to where he wanted to be, and he sacrificed a lot of what his family life was. But I didn't feel I had done that. I felt I'd given my kids, all of them, including Brian, as much as I possibly could during the time that we had him. So that made me feel at least I'd done something right, and there was nothing more I could have done at the time. I wouldn't say that the grief journey in that respect was helped by Hearts, although the shared experiences that we had at Hearts did bring us very close together as a family in the lead up to whatever happened.
Yeah, it's definitely with me and Adam, especially. It's the one thing that we've always kind of had, even when our dad was here. We'd
Yeah.
always go to the football together. We'd have lunch, and ever since that, it's always been the two of us going to games, getting season tickets together, and
Yeah.
I enjoy just even like the car journeys up with Adam, if we're going to like an away day or even down to the home games.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
the funny thing is, like, me and John quite often talk about grief and my dad and everything at the football, and it's like we talk about it much. Like, we don't always talk about it apart from then, but somehow at the football you feel like on the way to the football or at the match,
Yeah.
kind of feels that you can talk about it and it doesn't really matter. Whereas I don't know, it just
Yeah,
it's like
I get that.
yeah,
I really get that. I understand what you mean. It's a place where you were all together, so you
yeah,
could, even talking about your dad it doesn't emotionally upset you because you're talking about something that you really enjoyed together.
yeah, and like I think every time I walk into Tiny, like I think of my dad and I think of like
Yeah,
yeah, and I
yeah,
think
yeah,
I mean, like John was saying, I think the fact that me and John got to football together, that's kind of like
yeah,
we're very close, and I think the football, like I'm like 12 years older than John, and I
yeah.
think the football was a really great way for us to get close because obviously there's a big age gap, and you're at different stages of your life, but football doesn't really matter how old you are, I think. So
That's right.
yeah,
That's kind
and
of like the same age gap that my kids have, because
yeah,
it was a 2-year gap and then it was a 9-year gap. So it's 11 years between the older one, Brian, and the younger one, Kevin, and 9 years between Kevin and his brother, Colin. So,
yeah,
It's weird though as well, Adam. I've not even told you this, to be honest, but I remember that I didn't even enjoy going to the games when you were in London. I kind of felt like, what you were saying, you sort of thought of Dad when you came into
yeah,
Tynecastle. I used to find when I was going by myself, I'd kind of just sit there and sometimes I'd just zone out. Like you're saying, you just think about things, like
yeah,
something would pop into my mind with Dad, and I wasn't even there for the game half the time. And then, once you were back up, it was like the start of a new season, but it had been about 3 or 4 seasons.
yeah, yeah. And the funny
yeah,
thing is, like when I was in I lived in London for like 6 years, and I had a good time. But by the end, I was like desperate to come back. And coming to the football now, when you've been away for a few years and not gone to that many games, like I actually appreciate every match, like in a way that I didn't when like I had a season ticket before I left to London, but now that I come back, like yeah, every time I came back from London, basically every match mattered so much to me. Even when we lost, I was like, I don't care. I'm at Tynecastle, so I think
Yeah.
it gives you a different perspective. And obviously that's just London, but I think I don't know, even the grief aspect, it kind of makes you like there's a part of you that even when you're losing, like at least I'm going with John, and we still going with my brother, that kind of thing. So I think
Yeah.
it changes your perspective on. Obviously, don't ask me this if we lose to Hibs at Tiny or something, but in general, my point is like the results become a bit less important, and it's more about just going to see Hearts, I think, and grief and all these other factors kind
Yeah.
of contribute to the results being a little bit less important than actually being there with family.
Well, for me though, what happened was that Colin at the time, as I said, was 13. He had started playing rugby, so he was I think 11 when he started playing rugby. Because he enjoyed football, but he just got fed up with boys' football because they were. It's a long. Don't get me going started on that because that's one of my passions about boys' football. Anyway, I'll not go there. But so his brother, the younger one, the 4-year-old, didn't like rugby. But when he got to 9-year-old, he decided he wanted to play rugby for the same reasons his brother played it. So basically, from 11-year-old, which was pre-be what 91, 91, right through till about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, my boys were playing rugby. One of my boys was playing rugby, and I was going to see them every week. Maybe more than that. Maybe about 5, 6 years ago. So I was going to see the boys playing rugby every week. So basically, that's why I was never at Tynecastle because I just it was more important to go and see my boys.
Well, thanks very much for sharing that, both Adam and John, as well as yourself, Davy.
Yeah,
It's really powerful hearing that, and I know that your story and journey with grief doesn't end with your son. You also faced the loss of your wife as well.
yeah.
How did that chapter shape you and your family?
I think that the loss of my wife, which was now 8 years ago, in 2017, sorry, that was probably the time where Hearts have come into it most, to be honest with you. Because when she passed away, it brought the family close together for a period of time because we spent a whole week basically living in St Columbus Hospice, and that was all of us in a big room, um, just occasionally going home for clothes and stuff like that. But basically, we spent the whole time there. Even the daughter-in-laws and the two boys were just there all the time. Um, so that was a tough time, really tough. And I think I told you this before, Jamie, when we met, that the grief the grief part of when my wife passed away, obviously you've got the whole funeral things to sort out. But when we were when it really hit me at times was when you're coming home to the house on your own. That
Mhm.
really was tough. And I think I told you about the time when I went out to well, I haven't said already, I'm a keen golfer, so well, I
Mhm.
probably did when I said I was talking about Florida, but I was a keen. I play golf a lot, and I remember going to buy myself a top in American golf in Livingston, and I decided I was driving home with this top in my car, and I bought it for I don't know why I bought. I just bought it because I was in there looking at them, and I remember driving home and bursting into tears because I had no one to share it with. I was going into the house and there was nobody to say, look what I've bought and get a row for buying another golf top.
Yeah.
And that's how you kind of think it's all these little things that really impact you. And then, as I said to you before, that was, you know, one of the hardest parts was when you were out, was coming home into an empty house. And you'd done that loads of times, but it was so tough because you knew there was nobody there and there was never going to be anybody there. And that was really hard. And as I said to you, I explained to you that um, my background's in technology, as is my older boy Colin. His background's in technology. So I ended up sorting out technology to help me cope with that. and basically by buying Wi-Fi plugs that I could turn on and off whenever I wanted, even when I wasn't at home. So if I was coming home from somewhere, I would just press a button on the phone and say, I'm coming home, and all the lights would come on and the radio would come on. So when I came in the house, it felt like there's somebody in the house. It sounds simple and it sounds stupid in some ways, but it did make a difference. It made a huge difference. And for a short period of time after I lost my wife, whose name was Ethel, by the way. I didn't like to keep saying my wife. This becomes an anonymous person at that point. When I lost her, we got some counselling in St Columba's Hospice. They provided you that counselling for a period of time. And I remember telling the group session that I was in about this, and the guy was just blown away with it. And so were the people in the group. They had never heard anybody saying something like that, because they had all felt the same thing. Coming home to an empty house was so difficult. And that made me feel I'd made some contribution to maybe their lives as they were going through their grief stage as well. But to move it on a little bit, Kevin got injured a few times, and he decided he was going to stop playing rugby. And that left me with nothing to do on a Saturday, and I thought, I played golf on a Sunday, so I didn't play golf on a Saturday as well. So, well, I did, but I didn't. I felt I was getting too old to do that sort of stuff. Anyway, I thought, what am I going to do on a Saturday? So I thought, right, I'm going to get myself a season ticket. Nobody to go with. I just thought, I'm going to get myself a season ticket. And that's what I did. And I've been going to Tynecastle now for about 4 years, 3-4 years. And I'm not being funny. The joy of going back to that again, and the people I've met round about me, one of the guys through the golf, he goes, so I've met his brothers and meet people in the BMC club, and we have a laugh, and it's really just fantastic. And then, of course, podcasts like this is my story, podcasts like Scars Around the Funnel and Heart Standard. They're all things that I just devour all the time, because I love listening to people talking about Hearts, thinking about Hearts, reading stories about Hearts, and it's brought a passion back in my life that had been long lying dormant, I think. So yeah, that's helped me a lot through my grief, because it's given me a focus through the week, even just when I'm not doing anything, I can sit and read something about Hearts or listen to something about Hearts, and I enjoy that so much. So I think that's probably it gives you. I mean, my social life ended up being focused around golf, because I met friends through that. I'd already had friends. I increased my circle of friends. I played more regularly, and I enjoy that. And that's where my social side comes from. But when you're in the house on your own, you can't be within people all the time. So you can't be with family all the time. You can't be with friends all the time. You've got to have some interests. I did start playing the guitar, learning to play the guitar. I think I was about, it could be about 68, 69 when I started learning to play the guitar. And I enjoyed it. Just before COVID, I actually started doing it, and I had to stop it at COVID. I haven't taken it back up again since. But after I stopped that, I thought, I've got to get something else I can do. And that's when I started looking at Hearts. So I've been going to Hearts ever since, and I really enjoyed it. Loved every minute of it.
I think something. I think we spoke about this when we met. It's almost like things like saying having the lights on, maybe having music playing for you coming back. I think it's almost like the silence is the worst bit. Like I always find at
Yep.
night, if it's turn the light off, I'm lying in bed. That's when my mind starts to go. I just can't have silence. I need something to keep me occupied or keep my brain on other things.
I've been like that since I lost Brian. I have to have noise in the house.
Yeah.
Just the way it is. And it's worse since I lost Ethel. It's just been, I've had to basically keep myself occupied, and noise is what I keep myself occupied with when I'm not doing anything else.
Hard to say much after all this. It's been obviously been a good listen. I think it kind of helps me actually hearing Davey talk about things, because when I don't know how relevant this is, but when just before I was born, my older brother died like when he was like 1.
Mm.
I'll often think about it because like when I was a kid, I'd always think, oh, I could have had an older brother, would have been coming to the football with us and everything. But I think Davey sort of talking about how he coped with everything kind of makes me think of the fact that my dad, like obviously my mum, but like I'm talking from a heart's perspective. It kind of makes you wonder like what your own parents went through when they lost, they lost a son at like 1 year older. I don't know. The whole episode's kind of giving me a different perspective on like what they maybe did to cope with things, like And I think my dad probably went to the football, went to golf, and all this stuff as a kind of like escape, maybe from all the kind of emotions you must be feeling at that point. But yeah, it's a hard episode for me as well, actually, because we lost. My sister died a few years ago. Obviously my brother died before I was born. Our dad died a few years ago, so it's kind of it's a very good episode, but it's also like, yeah, it's tough to think of. I feel like we've lost a lot of people in our family, like even like uncles
Yeah.
and everything. Like even last year, our uncle died. Like I went to the semi-final against Rangers with him, and then a month later he died. Like he was only in his 60s, and like
Yeah.
it's a hard episode. It's a good episode, but it's a hard one because there's like, yeah, we've lost a lot. I mean, I know everyone's lost people, but there's been a hell of a lot of
I,
people we've lost in our family.
I don't want to make this sound like I'm coming at it from that I'm miserable, because I'm not.
No.
I mean, my life was supposed to be after retirement. I was due to retire a few months after she died, and basically our life was supposed to be going on cruises and doing all this kind of stuff. And one of my mates, and he sat with me afterwards, and he says, "David, you think about what you're going to do." He says, you could have 20 years now. He says, "You're only 60." What would I was 64 when she died. He says, "You could have 20 years now." He says, "What are you going to do? You're going to sit about the house and mope." And she says, "That's what, if I wouldn't have wanted that." And it did give me a kick up the pants at the time, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought, he's right. I can't just sit in my life and mope about the house. I have to do things. That's why I started to learn the guitar. That's why I went back to Tynecastle. That's why I've been going on holidays, golfing holidays, because my mate wanted to go and he was going on holiday. He was looking for somebody to go on holiday as well. So two of us have been going on holidays ever since. And it's just, my life is full now. I get people saying to me, "You're never in." And that's good, because that means I'm doing things. But as I say, I don't want people to think that I'm miserable, and I could have been miserable. I could have been terrible, but it's not been like that. I've got two lovely grandchildren now, and one of them's only 9 weeks old, and they're very fulfilling. The 5-year-olds, I've just bought them the Hearts Away strip. It's great. I love doing that kind of stuff. So I'm really, as much as I can be, I'm a happy person at the moment.
No, don't get me. I mean, your story is totally inspiring. To be honest, it's like yeah, inspiring is basically the word I'd use for the way you talk about everything and the way you've kind of handled it all. So I think it certainly doesn't come across as miserable. It comes across as
Yeah,
like making the absolute best you can of the circumstances and
that's
kind of
exactly what it is. That's
yeah.
exactly what it is. Yeah.
And
I think as
I mean,
well. Sorry,
sorry, no, John, you go.
I'm just going to say, I think as well with us, obviously we lost our granddad as well recently, and I think what was kind of different, like you're saying, you sort of go look at the happy moments. I think we were all really sad, and then I can't remember. It was all a bit of a blur, obviously, but maybe a day or something after we're all sitting down and we're just talking about all the happy memories,
Yeah.
and then we started talking about our dad, everyone in the family really, and it was like all these people had come and gone, but it was all just happy, like it was all the good
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
I think that's what we do now as well. When me and Adam tend to talk, is it's more sort of we'll talk about something a bit more serious, than it'll be, "Oh, but remember that," and then we'll start laughing away.
Yeah.
I think the thing about losing grandparents and parents, it's a kind of natural order. No matter when it happens, it can be traumatic, obviously. But losing a child's completely different. It's something that shouldn't happen, and that's where I think there's something slightly different. But I mean, I've lost my dad a few years ago. It wasn't terribly close to my dad latterly. It was okay, we were fine. But I was very close to my stepbrother, who we spent 2 or 3 years living together in the same room, but and music and darts and golf and football and all that stuff were very, very important to us. We had so many good times. And then he went away for a long time. But when my dad died, we sort of met up with each other, and it was like we had never been apart. And we started the same carry on, the same jokes, the same laughter, sitting in funeral parlour with what do you call it? What do you call these people that do funerals? Whatever they're called, anyway. And we're having carry on about what colour of flowers because you wanted green flowers and all this kind of stuff, and it was nonsense. But it was because we had good times together, and my dad was a catalyst in that little discussion. And now my stepbrother and I are best mates again, and we see each other every week, even though he's a hippie.
Would you like to share any memories of either Ethel or Brian, or would you like people listening to this to take away something after hearing your story?
My wife was a person that worked in care homes, and honestly, I can say she was one of the most caring person you'd ever meet. And losing her to cancer, and it was incredibly quick. It was from like December, and she died the following August. And I just would say to anyone that's suffering from or thinks they might be suffering from cancer, she had bowel cancer, and basically just go and see about it because you never know how quick it can hit you, and you never know if you get it early, you might be able to sort it. And going on to my son, he did what he shouldn't have done, and basically he paid the price for it, the ultimate price for it. He went across the road instead of going on the underpass. But at that time, it wasn't important that kids wore helmets, and if he'd worn a helmet, it might have saved them. So if you've got children, make sure your children wear helmets when they're going out on their bikes. So that's all I can say. That two things would be really important things to say.
If there's anyone sort of beginning their grief journey or perhaps expecting a grief journey, is there any sort of advice that you could give to them?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing. Let's talk about my wife journey because that's a more natural one if you want. Is to be able to talk about it, open up about it, and if you want to cry, don't be ashamed to cry because guys don't cry. As the song says, big boys don't cry. And I think big boys do cry because I cried a lot and I still do at times. As far as losing my son, it's really tough to say anything about that. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason why it happened. And all I can say is if you lose a child, talk to people about it, get some help if you need help. We went to someone that was supposed to help us and it was a waste of time. We got our help through ourselves. And remember, there's a lot of people split up after lose children. Nobody's at fault. It's something that's happened, and just try and deal with it as best you can. It's hard for me to give you any advice on that one because everybody's an individual on that one.
Well, thank you so much once again, Davy, for everything you shared with us. I know that people listening to this will find it incredibly helpful hearing you talk about it. So we're very grateful. I know that a number of other people listening to this will be very grateful as well.
Jamie, if anybody wants any help or any advice, or even just wants somebody with a shared experience to talk to me, please let me know, and we can talk about whether I can help them or not, or put them in touch with me. I don't mind. It's not easy sometimes for me to talk about it. I'm okay at the moment to talk about it because I've kind of been preparing in my mind that this was going to happen, so I'm okay
Yeah.
about it. But if somebody's struggling and they feel that I could help, then yeah.
Yeah, of course. And I think that just really typifies your kindness, Davy. You know, straight after me, Adam, and John met you, we all just came away just saying what a really genuinely wonderful, kind, and open person you are, and I think that really just highlights that. So I really appreciate it.
Thanks very
Yeah.
much for that, guys.
Right, so last week we talked, me and Adam, we put together our squads, a combined squad of the class of 2005 2006 alongside the current squad. I put Adam on the spot for it, and it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
There's a number of players that I know could have easily made. There's actually a guy in social media was saying he would have included Aguiar, and I completely, we
Well,
didn't even
yeah,
mention
because
him.
Jamie, you said it had to be guys at the start of the season, but he didn't come
Yeah,
into
you're
halfway
true.
through.
You're right.
I mean, this is David. This is what we're working with. Jamie was just like, right, go ahead, and now he's changing the parameters and everything. It's an absolute nightmare. Jamie seems like this great guy, but he's just bloody messing everything up for me with this. So he
I
was
just like to
he was
scupper
just like,
people.
go,
Which
like, yeah, that was yeah. You guys are gonna get a lot easier than I did. I got given 5 seconds notice, but no, I was definitely, I was explicitly told start of the season only. Don't include the January signings. That's why I didn't put Beswicha in my team. You know.
a glaring omission, right?
I know all these names, but I've actually no bloody idea when they played.
Well, we can maybe we should put up the. Oh, Jamie will probably run through the possible options because like we worked out who was there at the start of the season, so Jamie can run through that.
So, as a reminder, here's the squad you can pick from the 2005 2006. In goals, then you've got Craig Gordon and Steve Banks, and then in defence there's Nielsen, Fizas, Presley, Webster, Jamie McAllister, Berra, Lee Wallace, Tal, and Gary Tierney. And then in midfield, you've got a choice of Paul Hartley, Rudy Scatchell, Julian Brelli, Chesnauskas, Mikalunas, Stephen Simmons, Camazola, and Neil McFarlane. Then up front, you can have Callum Elliott, Jankowskis, Pospisil, Bednar, and Hjalmar or Jamie Moe. So there are your options. Trunter, what did you come up with?
Was Jankowskis included in that?
He
Yes.
was included in that.
I'm sticking him right up front. I'll go from the back apart from that though. And
Fine.
for manager as well, I couldn't decide between whether or not I wanted George Burley or McInnes. But I think Burley for manager. Right, Craig Gordon, Takis Fisas, Stephen Presley, a fit Craig Halkett, probably gets into my back four. Robbie Nielsen was there, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I love Robbie Nielsen.
Yeah.
I'm
Jamie,
sticking
who
him
was
there.
it that you? Jamie, who was it you put in ahead of Nielsen again?
I'd rather if we just moved on from that, please.
Jamie, you've got Robbie Nielsen, who wasn't the greatest, but played hundreds of games for us. What was it? Who was it you put in, Jamie?
Superstar up and coming Borch Grevink. Thank you.
We've not seen enough. We've not seen enough. And
Anyway, well, this is going to backfire when he turns out to be incredible. But poor Robbie Nielsen. I mean, like I said last time, he was lined up for a guest for next week, but has pulled out after Jamie's omission. Anyway, Trunter, sorry.
oh well, we will get him back on then because I'm putting him there at that his last gasp tackle against Gretna in the 0506. That was beautiful. I've got Rudy on left wing.
What formation are we playing?
Oh, it's a bit of a mad 4-4-2. I think I've got the right amount of players in it though. I've got a friend that I watched the 2012 Cup final with, my mate Bob, who I used to work with for years and years at Tesco, and he always said that. So basically, he was always unlucky in love. He hadn't had like a serious girlfriend, and I always said, right, I'm gonna call my firstborn son Rudy. Never believed him. He's got a 3-year-old, maybe 4-year-old son called Rudy.
Brilliant.
Absolute legend. I've gone for Hartley and probably Bruno Aguiar in the midfield, but I want to put Julian Brellier in. Hartley's a bit more offensive, so if I put Brellier in there, yeah, we'll go for Brellier. I loved him when he was here with us. Miko, my favourite Hearts player, potentially of all time, is on the right wing. And the other striker other than Jankowskis is, I'm going to go for Braga.
Head of Shankland.
Yeah, I think so. There's something about him.
Did you say you had Sketch on the
I'm
team? I
going-
know you said your story about your pal, but did you have Sketch on your team?
Did I not say that? Sorry, my bad.
Sure you
My
don't
bad,
want Alan
my
Forrest?
bad.
That's John's favourite player, Davey, just so you're...
I gathered that.
Yeah.
I've got a team picked as well, so you can come to me at some point.
Right, well, we're ready for you now in that
Oh.
case. Go for it, Davey.
Fairly simple. Gordon in goals, obviously.
Mhm.
Nielsen right back, Halkett, Presley, and Fisas.
Excellent.
Hartley, Scatchell, Brellier, and Braga. And Jankowskis and Shanks up front.
So you're
Good
going for
team.
sort of more sort of 4-3-3 kind of thing then?
Yeah, well, I was thinking Braga could play Braga and Shanks. Brellier would be holding, and you'd have 4-1-3-2.
So I'm trying to think. So if it's just two from the current squad, then
Yeah, no, three,
three.
four
Who
in
else?
fact. Four.
Oh, my
Dave
apologies.
Gordon, Halkett, Braga, and Shanks.
Which...
You've copied me, mate.
Have I?
Craig Gordon's kind of. So you're
Aye.
going for current Craig Gordon rather than Craig Gordon of old.
Yeah,
Well, he's
current
the
Craig.
same-
No,
he's the
he's in the
same
squad.
person. He's the same man,
That's
isn't
splitting
he?
hairs a bit, Jamie. Come on.
I'm
I
trying
know.
to get you on a technicality. As Adam's rightly pointed out, I'm actually a terrible person.
I know, it's
Yeah.
just what we've got to deal with, Davey. This kind of...
All right, Steve Banks.
Finally, a sensible choice.
Who's your manager? Who's your manager, Davey?
I think McInnes.
Okay, interesting.
I didn't even think about putting in who I'd rather have. Who'd you go for in that case, Adam?
I've got to go for Burley, partly for nostalgia. You know, I just think that was the best time of my life supporting Hearts, and hopefully McInnes will eclipse that.
Yeah, you're
But-
right. Yeah.
Yeah, for now it's got to be Burley, but McInnes has McInnes certainly has the chance to achieve more because Burley obviously was only there for a couple of months.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go with McInnes just because I've absolutely loved every interview he's had, but I totally understand why people want to go for Burley, just because it was the team that almost was, right? And what could have happened if he stayed in charge?
If you think about it, we've played 10 games, have we? 10 games? It's about that.
Including League
He's
Cup, yeah, it will be about that. Aye.
He's unbeaten. He's scored barrel load of goals. He's
Mhm.
hardly lost a goal. And you think Burley was only in charge for 10 games?
Yeah.
I just think he's got a team playing. And I know that Burley was exciting. And
Mhm.
one of the players I wanted to put in, but I couldn't, is Bednar, because I think Bednar was fantastic then. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the one I struggled with the most as well. I absolutely loved him as a player. And I
Yeah.
was just saying in the last week's podcast, can you imagine what he would have been like in a McInnes team? Isn't he the most McInnes player? there's
he's
ever been?
100%.
Christ,
100%.
So before we look at the Falkirk game then, John, I'm wondering if you can come in and give us your loan watch. How have Hearts players been doing outside of Hearts?
All right. So we'll just start the same as last time. So Danda got a red card, so he had a wee break. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but absolutely
Dreadful.
never a red.
Really
No.
harsh.
Lewis Nielsen played 90 minutes again. Obviously Falkirk lost at Maroon, the last game he played. Haven't seen any of the highlights, but from going off his rating, it seems like he was alright, bang average. Collie Tate, 70 minutes against Dundee. They did lose 3-2, but again, seems like he did alright. Good to see him getting minutes.
I like Macaulay Tate because his mum's in some of the Hearts groups.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Martindale has been raving about him. Absolutely every time he's gives an interview about him, he says he's some player.
Mhm.
I always
He's
really
definitely
liked
got a
Tate
lot.
when I always really liked Tate when he was at us. I hope he gets another chance at some point.
Yeah.
Hell
I remember that first game he played, and he
100%.
had that chance right at the end. I think he passed it instead of going for the shot or something. I think it was with you that game, Adam.
Yeah, I remember
The
that.
first one. Oh yeah, if he scored there, it could have been different. Next we've got Bobby McLucky at Hamilton. They won 4-0. Played half the game, so good to see he's getting some minutes. I've kind of clumped a few of the next ones in together, so we've got a few at different teams. So we've got Sunderland and Gus Stevenson now at Montrose. They drew 1-1 at East Fife. Sunderland's played 90 minutes again for the 7th game in a row, so looks like he's a regular in their team now, which is pretty good. And Stevenson got 10 minutes for his debut. Kenzie Nair, Spartans lost 3-1 to Stirling. He didn't play again, which I think it might be the 4th or 5th game. I think he's only had about 5 minutes or something since he's been there, so don't know if that's a sign that he maybe isn't going to make it, or whether he'll come back to us and go somewhere else maybe in January. And then we've got Plank and Gillies. Went to, I can't remember what team it was, I've not written it down, but they drew 1-1 with Elgin. Plank gone for 5 minutes, and Gillies played 90 minutes, so looks like he started his first game and played the whole thing, so good sign for him.
Well, speaking of loans, Nielsen, that you mentioned, he's a regular in the back line for Falkirk. So they're going to have to do a bit of chopping and changing ahead of the match this weekend. They tend to set up pretty much every week in a 4-2-3-1. What are your thoughts about this Falkirk team ahead of the weekend then, John?
So, I mean, they've got a few decent players. You're right with what you're saying there about the formation. The only time they've changed it, I think, was for Celtic, which kind of understandable. I think they went a bit more defensive. But yeah, I'd expect them set up the same way. I've not actually had a look at who they're probably like for replacement will be for Nielsen. But I've had a look at a few of the other ones. Obviously, they've got Brad Spencer. I think he was linked to us early on in summer. Plays centre
That's right.
midfield.
He was.
I think was he their captain? I don't know.
He still
Great.
is, yeah.
Obviously Scott Arfield's probably going to be the main one to watch for them. It's obviously proven he can do it at this level.
Hmm.
But there's a few other ones I picked up from just watching a couple of their games, and they've got, I think it's Calvin Miller, the winger. I remember watching him against Celtic. I thought looked like he's pretty decent. Maybe not top quality, but certainly one to watch. And I think it's Dylan Tate maybe
Yep.
midfield. I think he looks quite decent as well. Again, nothing, nobody that you're kind of looking going, they're definitely going to be dangerous, but they've all got a bit about them. And then this one's more just because I actually wanted to ask you guys how this guy's still playing. Brian Graham, somehow playing up for them. I think he must be like, what, 30, 38 or something now?
He must be in that. He came from Partick, I think it was.
Yeah.
Just over the
Player
summer.
manager, wasn't he?
Yes, yeah, he was.
I think he went to school with Davy.
I think if you could see me playing football, no, he wouldn't be. The one thing about Falkirk is that I think different from some of the other teams is that McGlynn plays the same way all the time, and McInnes knows that. So unless McGlynn does something really different, really strange, he will be able to set the team up to play against Falkirk. I think. I'll tell you another thing. Did you watch the open goal thing with, is it Cole Donaldson?
Donaldson, yeah. He's a Hearts fan, is he not?
He's a big jambo, yeah. And he'll be up for it. He will be right up for it. I think it'll be a good game to watch, but I think we've got the firepower up front to cause him problems.
Any hopes or expectations about lineup or players at all for this match, Davy?
I think Borjevic will be back. and I think the back four will be as it was. I think with Rangers, except that Milne will go back instead of Kingsley. My back four would be Halkett, Finlay, and Milne with Borchevink in the right back. I think McEntee will play if he's fit, because I've had that plantar fasciitis, and it took me a long time to get rid of it. There's a leading world expert in Edinburgh that if Hearts want to go and use him, he'll get rid of it for him because it's really tough to get rid of. It's painful as hell as well. If anybody's had it, you'll know it's painful.
Aye.
So he'll play if he's fit. Devlin will play. I think he's going to. I think Aji will be too soon for him. So I think it'll be Devlin and Beningame, Kizaridis on the right, on the left wing, and it'll be Shanks and Braga up front.
Kizaridis should start because their right back's not great.
Yeah, I think, and he'll occupy that left side with Milne. The only person that might come in instead of either Devlin or Beningame, more likely Beningame, I think, might be Spittle.
Do you think you'd maybe chuck in like someone like Magnuson, maybe just because maybe Falkirk on paper are a little bit weaker? Do you think you might maybe flex it a couple other plays?
Possibly, but Falkirk aren't a particularly big side, and I think that he loves Devlin, and Beningame's the best midfielder we've got, really. If he could just shoot, I mean, he's the best midfielder. But McEntee is brilliant. My only concern with that is you play McEntee, Devlin, and Beningame. They're three kind of holding midfielders, and I don't think he'll do that. I think
you want to go for them. You want to go for Falkirk and put on pressure.
I think he'll play two of them, and he'll have one other one who's a more attacking player, and that's why I think he might go with Spittle.
Davey, I've got Beningame in for getting 2 goals this season. What do you think?
Not like to play own goals. I think the goals. I love Benny. I think he's great, but for me, he's too injury prone, and we need to get rid of him. Personally, I would get rid of him before Devlin. I think Devlin is exactly what McInnes likes.
I think Benny will be away by the end of the season for sure. I don't think he'll sign another contract.
Yeah.
Trunter, what are your thoughts and expectations for the game then, or hopes?
I think we'll hump them.
Well, let's move into predictions then. What's your score prediction and the scorer?
I reckon 3-0. I reckon it's going to be, obviously, Benny will get a goal. I think Shanks and of course Finlay.
A mainstay for your predictions, isn't it? What about yourself, Adam?
I was about to say 3-0 as well, so I'm going to stick with that, and I'm going to go for Kizaridis. I think we're going to walk it. And also, I mentioned it before, but John and I are taking our nephew and niece to a game for the first time. So I'm feeling a bit of pressure, hoping we put on a show because they do not like football and are not looking forward to it. So we need to do something big to try and win them over. So 3-0 Hearts, Kizaridis, definitely. I think that's more likely than Benny, as much as I'd love to see Benny score, to be honest.
What about yourself, John?
I'm going to be really positive and say it's going to be a really boring 2-0, and absolutely nothing's going to happen for the game. We'll get a goal from Halkett, I'm going to say, just to be different, from a corner, and Braga, as usual, and then nothing else will happen.
Davey, we'll end with you then. What's your prediction for the game and the scorer?
3-1 for Hearts. I think Arfield will score for them. And I think that Shanks, Braga, and Kizzy will score. And I just want Braga to score because I want to hear Radio Gaga.
Right, I will go. I say we'll end with you. Sorry, actually, we're ending with me.
You're ending with me. Fine.
Well, I will say I'll go for a clean sheet as well. I will go. I don't want to go. I think 4-0's too much, and I don't want to say 3-0 because that's what everyone seems to be saying. I'm going to go with 2-0 as well. In that case, I'll go with you, John, in that one. Who do I think will score? I think I'm going to go for Magnuson. Why not? I think he's going to come off the bench. It's going to be a bit like what happened in the Rangers game. He'll come off the bench. They'll be tired. Magnuson will come on and score to make it 2 in the 88th minute. There we go. That's my very thorough prediction.
I've got a quiz question, by the way.
Of course,
this week.
yes.
So John suggested I come up with player. So Davey, I think obviously you've listened to us before, but you've got to guess. You've got to work at the club apart from Hearts that connects former players. So John suggested I try and find some Davies that played for Hearts, since you're a guest on the show. So I'm going to give you 3 different players. They all played for the same club other than Hearts. So we've got Dave McPherson, David Murray, and David Vittavine. All of them played for the same. Vittavine, you know that guy that he played in 2009, 2010. He was a striker. You guys know Vittavine, right? He was awful.
No.
No, thank God it's not just me. Who were the other two?
Dave McPherson, David Murray, who was a youngster with us when we won the cup.
Yeah.
Didn't play a lot. And then Vittavine, who was 2009, 2010 striker.
I mean, it won't. The one that jumps to mind with Dave McPherson is obviously Rangers, but I don't think you'd make it that. You wouldn't make it that obvious. Can't.
I'm not answering until you give. After our previous issues with the quiz, I'm not saying anything until we get a final answer.
And also, I don't.
Did McPherson not play for some Fife team as well?
I'll give you so. McPherson went to Australia and then had a final season in Scotland, and that's the club that links them. Not that it helps much, but
What year was that?
2001, 2002. He finished his career at this club.
Yeah, I remember it well.
Yeah,
I think it was my year. 2001. Jesus, man, I can remember 67. No, 2001.
The thing is, right, most of these are impossible to get. You just have, it's not supposed to be one that's easy. God, I feel like I'm getting slaughtered for this one.
I've got a feeling that McPherson played for a Fife team. I'm sure he did.
All right, do you want to go for one of them?
Yeah, I'll get it wrong. Wraith Rovers.
Right, Jamie, what's your guess?
Well, I'm going to go with a Fife team as well in that case, because that's more of a clue than I've got. I will, in that case, say Cowdenbeath.
Right, Trunter. I'll give you a clue, Trunter. It's not a Fife team. Go for someone else. I didn't give Jamie the clue, but Trunter, you can get the clue. Now that it's gone down the Fife route, let's move to another team so someone might get it right. Trunter. It's a Scottish team, but not a Fife
It's a Scottish team.
Yeah.
Is it Morton?
Yes.
Fuck off!
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
John, are you joking?
I was going to say that.
What? Seriously?
No, of course not.
Oh my God, it is not Morton.
It is Morton, yeah. So McPherson ended his career at Morton. David Murray went to Morton after Hearts. Vittavine went on loan to Morton. He went on loan to Morton D. Obviously, you guys can't remember him, but
Fucking hell, that is a ridiculously deep cut.
So Trunter, you're up next week.
I only said Morton because we were on the train with the Morton fans.
Oh wow, yeah, that was actually one of the highlights of that trip. Speaking to the Morton fans,
you could have given me a clue if we went to one of their games. That's great.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
let brother down.
Would you have got it from that?
No, I would have said he's 5.
Well, thanks everyone for listening again to the episode. And our thanks again to Davy for joining us. If you haven't already, please do like and subscribe on our Spotify, Apple Podcasts and our YouTube. We've also got our Instagram up and running, doing a few posts on there. So please do give us a follow in there as well. Sky and on X, and it's Hearts on Sleeves podcast on all of those. We look forward to speaking to you again next week. We'll cover the Falkirk game. Hopefully it'll be another victory for the Jambos. We'll see you then.